So this is not an antibiotic.
My name is Jasmine Castro.
My name is Jordan McGrath. And my name is Jose Loera. And our team topic is, why is antibiotic use in food animals bad? Alright, so you may ask yourself, what are antibiotics? Antibiotics are a medicine that helps stop infections that are caused by bacteria. Okay, so how are they used in food animals? They're used in food animals in two different ways, which are therapeutic and subtherapeutic. Therapeutic is when they use antibiotics to prevent infection or illness from spreading. And subtherapeutic is when antibiotics are used in low doses to promote growth, milk production, or meat, otherwise known as muscle increase. It's antibiotic use in food animals. Okay, so why is antibiotic use in animals bad? One reason antibiotic use in food animals is bad is because bacteria might become resistant to antibiotics used in humans, which is known as antibiotic resistance. Another reason antibiotic use is bad is because it can find its way through food if antibiotic resistance occurs. What are some reasons we should stop using antibiotics in animals? One reason we should stop using antibiotics in animals is because farms who have reduced antibiotic use in animals shown that they have 39% decrease in antibiotic resistant bacteria, which is linked to human health. WHO, known as the World Health Organization, reported that 80% of antibiotics use occurs in farm animals. When antibiotics are treated in animals, they develop a resistance to drugs, and then they pass the antibiotic resistant diseases to humans, which is more commonly passed through food. Going on to the next section, we're going to be talking about the history of antibiotics and in food animals. So here you see a brief timeline of pretty important events in antibiotics. So starting off with 1928, when we discovered penicillin, but as you can see, in 1938 was when we actually developed it. And after a couple of years, you can see that they started to show some antibiotic resistance to penicillin. And in 1950 was when we developed it. And then later in 1960 was when we actually developed it. And as you can see, 2 years after, we started to show some antibiotic resistance to methicillin. And in 1970, we rediscovered and increased the use of benzomycin. And 9 years after was when we started showing some human resistance to benzomycin. Continuing with the history and background of antibiotics, in 1940, livestock and poultry producers incorporated use of antibiotics on their animals, which came along with practices such as clean water, nutritious food, shelter from hot and cold, vaccinations, and medical treatment for their animals. In 1951, the FDA approved the first use of antibiotics in animals for weight increase. In 1969, government experts in the UK concluded that antibiotics contribute to antibiotic resistance in humans. In 1970, scientists recommended that certain antibiotics are banned in livestock so that they remain effective in humans. Alright, so in 1977, the FDA banned penicillin and tetracycline unless to be proven to be a threat to humans. But they said that the FDA needed a little more research, which in 1980 they found little data. In 1997, the World Health Organization recommended no human antibiotics should be used in livestock for growth purposes. In 1999, Europe banned human antibiotic use for feed growth. In 2003, the U.S. Institute of Medicine reports a rise in superbugs and recommended the ban of growth antibiotics. U.S. cells, medically important antibiotics, were approved for use in livestock rose by 23% between 2009 and 2014. In January 2012, the FDA limited antibiotics for and given to animals, which is used to treat pneumonia. And in April 2012, the FDA gave out a voluntary plan to phase out antibiotic use in animals over 3 years.
My name is Jasmine, and I'm going to be talking about what antibiotic resistance is. So, antibiotic resistance is when a bacteria can no longer be treated with an antibiotic due to the bacteria becoming resistant to the antibiotic. This happens because it happens so often, or it's being treated so often with the antibiotics. This is bad because our entire medical system is built upon antibiotics. This can lead to diseases that were once easily treatable, and oftentimes the most resistant bacteria, especially in livestock, is bacteria such as Salmonella and E. coli.
So this is Jordan McGrath speaking again, and we're going to be talking about growth antibiotics just for a brief moment. And antibiotics are used mainly to increase efficiency and growth rate rather than to combat diseases. So after animals have been fed, we've talked about previously antibiotic resistance. After animals have been fed antibiotics over a period of time, Jasmine touched upon the fact that they retain the strains of bacteria which are resistant to antibiotics. Humans can retain these strains of bacteria through many ways, such as eating their meat, and having to deal with the animal's feces, and also in the slaughterhouses. So first, we'll be talking about B12. B12 keeps body's nerves and blood cells healthy and makes DNA, which also prevents anemia. Tetracycline is an antibiotic used to treat many bacterial infections such as UTI, acne, gonorrhea, chlamydia, and others. Tetracycline is available under these brand names: Sumicin, Acticide, and Acromycin V. Penicillin was obviously one of the very first antibiotics used to cure infections such as staph infections and strep. And chlorotetracycline and oxytetracycline are other antibiotics that are based off of the base of tetracycline.
It's Jasmine speaking, and we're going to be talking about ethics. So, one of the ethical dilemmas with antibiotics being given to livestock is that they're being given antibiotics for growth. As you can see here in the image, here is a chicken in 1957, and it weighed only 905 grams. Versus here in 2005, it weighs nearly 5 times that. This is because of all the antibiotics that we have been giving them in order for them to grow more. According to the Explore Animal Health organization, antibiotics prevent animal suffering. However, this isn't necessarily true. Because of this, it actually lowers their immune system due to their body not being able to build up the antibodies on their own. This also causes antibiotic resistance, again, like Jordan mentioned earlier and like I did in the previous slides. However, it can cause antibiotic resistance in both people and animals. And from the food that we eat, like chicken, poultry, steak, and so on, it can even cause fatal infections such as Salmonella and E. coli. Resistant germs can infect the environment, according to the CDC. This is through soil and through water, from their feces, from things like that. Also from the CDC, saying that the antibiotic-free labels are unclear. This is true because things that say organic may not necessarily mean that they were antibiotic-free. Because antibiotic-free labels, quote unquote, this could just mean that they weren't being given subtherapeutic antibiotics, and they could be given antibiotics at any point in their lives. Now I'm going to be talking about the cultural and sociological importance. One of the biggest things is vegan activists actually get to use the antibiotics argument as a pro-vegan tip. One of the biggest reasons that you should go vegan, since it is healthier and you aren't risking the the antibiotic resistance, and you're also not risking the exposure to Salmonella, E. coli, or other resistant bacteria. Antibiotics in livestock has also been used in the political playground. For example, the Senate Bill number 47, Chapter 758, effective since January 2018. This was a recent law that had just been passed, stating that animals can no longer be treated with human antibiotics. This was a big win for people who were against the antibiotics in the livestock industry. When it comes to animal rights, oftentimes livestock animals aren't even included. Hine states, some statutes exclude farm animals altogether from the definition of animal, meaning that they don't necessarily get the benefits from the animal rights.
This is Jordan again speaking, and I'm going to be talking about current events that have either happened within the past 2 years or are happening now. So December of 2018, antibiotics in the food producing area and the animals have started declining in the U.S. Antibiotics for use in livestock decreased by 33% from 2016 to 2017, and by 43% since sales peaked in 2015. January 1st, 2017, under guidance for industry, number 213, antibiotics that are important for human medicine can no longer be used for growth, promotion, in any food animal. January 1st, 2017, under guidance for industry, antibiotics that are important for human medicine can no longer be used for growth promotion in any food animal. Antibiotics also dropped from 5.7 million kilograms in 2016 to 0 kilograms in 2017. Over-the-counter sales have also declined from 8 million kilograms in 2016 to 271,000 kilograms in 2017. And we're going to continue on the current events. And among the food animal groups, the largest decline in antibiotic sales was seen in chickens, the 47% decrease from 2016 to 2017. Antibiotics also dropped in 35% in cows, 35% pork and pigs, and 11% in turkeys. Overall, medically important antibiotics account for 51% of the antibiotics sold for use on food animals. The other 49% are antibiotics that aren't used in human medicine. In October, the European Parliament voted to limit use of preventative antibiotics to individual animals, and only when a veterinarian believes there's a high risk of infection. That legislation won't become a law until the year 2022.
It's Jasmine speaking. For or against? As a group, we've come to the consensus that we are against antibiotics in livestock and feed animals. Why? Because one of the biggest reasons is because we find it unethical. We think it's wrong for farmers and people who own livestock to be giving these animals unnecessary antibiotics in order for them to grow up to 3% larger. They do this in order to gain more profit, because in an industry where you're selling meat by the pound, 3% is a lot. We also believe that it is an unnecessary attribute to antibiotic resistance. If the animals don't need to be treated with antibiotics, we believe that they shouldn't be.
So once again, this is Jordan speaking, and I'm going to summarize what we talked about today. So as a group, we've come to the consensus that we are 100% against on the idea of giving animals antibiotics for growth, and we are just leaving the idea that they should only be given antibiotics when they are in the need of them and when a veterinarian prescribes it to them and believes that they really do need that certain antibiotic. But once again, we're going to piggyback the idea that antibiotic resistance is something that is not only real, but it happens now, and you're giving these animals antibiotics that don't work. They've become resistant. Like, it's pretty redundant. And they're not only used to prevent disease, but they're mainly used for the growth of animals. And drugs used for the growth are getting banned more and more, so why do we use them? And that should wrap up today. My name is Jordan.
My name is Jasmine.
And my name is Jose Loera.
Thank you for listening.